Coming up on this episode of the Hitstreak.
I want you to look at how many people each year die secondary to their nicotine addiction. It's the number one preventable cause of death in the world. And so there isn't a bigger cause. And I want somebody to find a more devastating thing to families than this.
A smile can do more than brighten a face. It can rebuild a life. Smiles for Recovery is a nonprofit restoring confidence and dignity for individuals recovering from substance use by providing free, compassionate dental care. Addiction often causes serious dental damage, leading to pain, isolation, and lost opportunities. Smiles for Recovery changes that. Through a growing network of volunteer dental professionals, they offer cleanings, extractions, and full restorations, empowering people to re-enter the workforce, reconnect with loved ones, and literally rebuild their lives. Every single smile tells a story of healing, strength, and second chances. You can be a part of that story. Whether you're a dentist, a donor, or someone who believes in second chances, your support changes lives. Visit smilesforrecovery.org to learn more and get involved. Together, we're restoring smiles and renewing lives. Whoa. Check this out. Some of the world's biggest success stories started with nothing. Just grit, hustle, and a story worth hearing. So if you've clawed your way up, if you've built something out of nothing, if you've got a story that people need to hear, folks, this is your shot. The Hitstreak isn't just a podcast. It's a platform not just for top performers. It's also a platform that takes real stories from underdogs, builders, and dreamers, and it puts them on the map. Your story, your brand, your breakthrough. Apply now to be a guest. We'll put you in front of millions of viewers worldwide. You'll get pro-level content, high-level exposure, and a seat at the table with people who've been there and made it out. I'm not only looking for polished top performers. I'm looking for real stories from real people. If you've been through the fire and came out stronger, you belong on this show. Apply now. This is your moment. Email management@nickhyder.com or comment or DM the word Hitstreak to apply. The Hitstreak is where rags to riches stories have been told, and the next one could be yours. Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I've got an extra special treat joining me in the Hit Lab today. He's a previous guest. As a matter of fact, you can catch him on episode 91. It's been a couple years since he's been in here today, but let me give this dude a proper introduction, all right? He's a nationally recognized addiction medicine physician. He's a keynote speaker, a public health leader. As I mentioned, he was on episode 91 of the Hitstreak. The Hulu series Dope Sick was based around his story. Michael Keaton, Batman himself, actually played Dr. Steven in that role, folks. Give it up for my man, the founder of Cedar Recovery, Dr. Stephen Loyd. Doc, how we doing, baby?
I'm doing great, Nick. I'm so glad to be back here. I get to sign my name above Haynes Torbett on the wall, which fires me up. And I do want to apologize for being a little late. I went over the handlebars on my bike a while back, a few days ago when I was supposed to be here. I'm a little stiff, but man, I'm ready to go.
First hit of the day. Well, you look like you're recovering well. Going over the handlebars is not an easy task to do.
It is not. I didn't plan on it. There was nobody around, so luckily nobody saw it. But I can assure you, I still feel it. So I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be okay.
Well, gosh, I had to clip my toenails last week, and I still feel that. So
no doubt, feels different at 58 than it did 28. That's for sure.
No kidding. Well, folks, if you don't know, I met Dr. Steven. He goes down to the National Prayer Breakfast with us every single year. I get to spend some amazing time with him and his son, and you brought some amazing folks down there with us this year. It's always a good time, and it's just, man, we were recently. I had the dudes from Smiles for Recovery in the building. Troy Sandifer from Hustle Recovery, Justin Lowry, Dr. Aaron Pryor. You guys are all working towards the same problems. You were telling me before we started shooting, I want to make sure I get this right, that since the opioid crisis has started, we have lost more people due to the crisis than in all the times that our country's gone to war.
Combined.
Beginning
Beginning with the American Revolution till today. And it's mind-boggling, hard to get your head around, but that's actually true.
So, we love, you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person that you used to be. And we told your story on the last one. They can watch I highly recommend you watch the Dope Sick on Hulu. It's phenomenal.
Right.
And just for what it's worth, there's some of the story that's fiction. Let's just give them the recap so when they go watch it, they know what they're watching, right?
Well, the story is based on a fictional doctor in West Virginia who basically gets addicted to the medications he prescribes. And that's exactly what happened in my life in the early 2000s when I was a young doctor. The parts of it that are fictionalized, obviously it's in West Virginia. I'm a Johnson City boy, East Tennessee. So those things all happened. They just happened in East Tennessee. And really there's only two parts of it that are kind of Hollywood. One is I didn't relapse. If I make it till next month, it'll be 21 years, which still is hard for me to get my head around because there was a time where I didn't believe I could go 21 minutes, let alone 21 years.
Right.
And then the other thing is that I never bought a school bus. In Dope Sick, the Keaton character buys a school bus because he's taken so many people to treatment. And looking back on it, Nick, through the years, I probably should have bought a school bus.
It's a good idea, right?
It is a good idea, but the rest of it is all happened in the worst day of my life. Is in that series. Absolutely. I bought drugs from a patient of mine, and he taught me how to rub the coating off of the OxyContin and snort it, and that's depicted in the show, and it happened in my life.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Well, so when you hear a couple of years ago, honestly the numbers and the statistics were mind-blowing. I guess this touches close to home for us, which we've talked about before, but you don't realize the scale. The scale is unreal. The
scale's hard to get your head around. I mean, if you look at every person who has this issue touching 7 people, that means that about 75% of Americans are affected one way or the other, friends, family, coworkers. Yet it's the thing we don't talk about. And even getting to know you and Rihanna, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like this thing we have that's out there that's absolutely dominating our lives, yet we don't talk about it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And I think the biggest two are obviously shame and stigma. But the thing that kills me about that, Nick, is it's so treatable, right? And people come out on the other end, and they always like to hear the dirty underbelly, right? All the stories of this and that. But the beautiful side is on the other side of it, which is in recovery, and why I get to hang with you.
That's right. What's a couple of years ago, we're always learning. We've learned a lot, I'm sure. What's some of the biggest things that we've learned in the last couple of years? And are we making any dents in it? How are we doing in the fight against it?
Oh, we're making dents in it big time right now. A lot of the efforts that we've had for the last 10 years are really starting to pay off in blanketing areas with overdose reversal drugs. Everybody recognizes the name Narcan, but there's multiple drugs that do that now. So that's the first step is saving people's lives. And I think the biggest things that we've overcome, Nick, and since I've talked to you, is actually more and more people are seeing it. And, I've been out there beating this drum for a long time, but, I had a friend of mine tell me, he said, Steve, just when you're tired of saying it, that's just when people are starting to hear it. Right. And so we've kept that up, through the years. And there's now so many people, many more people on board. We live in Nashville, which for me is a great city, right? We've got the country music industry. We've got people in that industry starting to come online and get involved in this. And, my friend Ryan here in Nashville has done a great job with that and making this, bringing it mainstream because so many people are affected, Nick, but so many people can come out on the other side and they actually don't have to die.
Right.
And for me, there's still too many people dying. I don't care if there's one, then that's too many.
Right. So, if we had to break this thing down into into stages, right? So obviously the addiction would be phase 2 because the intro would be, you got to get introduced to it first,
right,
to get addicted to it.
Right.
And then after addiction, then that would lead to recovery, and then I guess life after recovery.
Yeah, we call it long-term recovery, and people will describe themselves as that. I'm such and such, and a person in long-term recovery. But Nick, it's really funny because the roots of addiction go back to genetics.
Yeah,
right. I always teach addiction is genetics, trauma, and opportunity. Right. Slot machine, 3 sevens come down on the pay line. That's when the money comes out the bottom. So you can look at your risk just from your family history, and then trauma. Right. We almost never touch on this. People don't like to talk about it growing up. Physical, sexual, emotional abuse. And one of the things I always like to, emphasize here, it's not about blame. Right? I'm not blaming it on that.
Yeah.
it's kind of how we got where we are.
Yeah.
And so when I started to figure that out, I was like, well, if this is how I got how I am, then there's something I can do about that going forward. So genetics, trauma, opportunity, then the addiction, right? Then the intervention, treatment, and then recovery, and then long-term recovery.
Treatment, then recovery. Yeah, treatment.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense. Let me put that in there. And the reason that I was, kind of asking about that is because, the guys from Troy Sandifer from Hustle Recovery, Dr. Aaron Pryor and Justin Lowry from Smiles for Recovery. They've been on the show. I've been helping them out with some stuff. It really like brought things full circle based on conversations I'd even had with you about the Narcan and at the end of the day, it's all about if they're not alive, there's nothing to save, right? So you got to keep them alive first and foremost. How do you do that? And it's amazing how people, giving people teeth can give them purpose and help with the relapse.
Yeah. Long before I met Justin Lowry and the people at Smiles, who, by the way, I love, I knew this. I was seeing it I was taking care of pregnant women who were, using heroin and fentanyl. And when they got into recovery, the most shameful thing that they had were their teeth. Mm-hmm. And, luckily I was in East Tennessee, small place. I knew a bunch of people, right? And we traded favors. And so I had some dentists that I'd done some favors for, and they started helping me with my patient's teeth. Mm. And I remember the very first one that I sent, and I want to give him a shout out, Bo Westmoreland, a dentist in Upper East Tennessee, who our kids played ball together, baseball. Right? We're all baseball guys. And I sent her to Bo's office. I said, Bo, she doesn't have any money. And she's trying to get a job. She's educated. I said, her teeth are terrible. I said, they're a great source of shame for her. So I sent her to Bo, and she called me later that afternoon. She was crying. And I started to get hacked, Nick, actually. I was like, what's she crying for? And I said, honey, you okay? And she goes, Dr. Lloyd, I've never been treated so well.
Wow.
I've never been treated with more respect than what I was treated with. And Bo fixed her teeth, and she got a job. Matter of fact, she's doing great today, raising her kids. She just got engaged. I mean, this is what I'm addicted to now, Nick. Right? I mean, I get to see this, but it started with the teeth, and now she had confidence, and her smile lights up a room. And when you see her, like, yeah, I'd hire her. And I don't think people realize what a difference that makes, right? If you look at years of things that we do to ourselves in our substance use, they're very difficult on our teeth. Starting with, marijuana, weed is very difficult on your teeth. If you have somebody that's using methamphetamine, it's like acid for your teeth. Just eats them out of your head. And then how shameful it is when you get in public in recovery and you smile, or you want to smile but you can't, because you know what? It's absolutely devastating. And then to watch the change in these folks as that gets corrected is just amazing. And so I love these guys for doing it, and that's why we partner with them.
Hi, folks. I'm your man, Nick Hyder, and I just want to say a quick thank you for all of you, the millions of you tuning into the Hitstreak. If you have not already, subscribe to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Share your favorite episodes with your friends, your team, literally whoever needs a lift. We've built a worldwide audience of millions, and we're just getting started. Every episode, we're breaking down the playbook of top performers so that you can get to that next level too. We're literally getting the information from the people that have it to the people that need it by bringing on guests that everybody knows and some that not everybody knows yet. So again, thank you for being a part of this movement. Keep listening, keep sharing, and keep leveling up with the Hitstreak. There's a quote that's gone around a gazillion times about that, your past is just a past, it's not a life sentence. You know what I mean? But, becoming an addict is, unfortunately, whether it should be or not, it's probably one of the most shameful things that a human being can go through. And then, and when it literally rots, when you've lost your teeth, every day when you look in the mirror, it's like, can you imagine how it's hard enough to overcome something like that on your own anyways. And then every time you look in the mirror, you're reminded of it, and you're reminded of the person that you used to be versus the person that you're going to be. I can't imagine how difficult that must be. It's
today's scarlet letter. I mean, every single time that you look in that mirror, you're reminded.
Yeah.
And I don't want to forget my past. And in all honesty, I don't want to change it. But you can also go the other route with it and remind you of who you are, remind me of who I am. And then if I go down the toxic shame side of that, next thing I know, I'm right back in that wallowing and don't feel like I belong or I matter, which are the two most important things that human beings have to have.
Yeah.
And so it's devastating for you, right? Yeah. And if you don't belong and you don't matter, I mean, you can see yourself going back down that cycle and being covered up in shame. And in all honesty, Nick, we know how to relieve shame. Right, we can alter ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
We have experience with that, and the teeth thing. I just I don't want to beat it to death, but it is so big, right?
Yeah.
And I look at myself. My teeth never got that bad, but they did get to the point where I just wasn't taking care of myself overall. Weight, wasn't eating right, all those things, and when I started doing that, I started taking care of myself. I got better in my job. I got better in my interactions with people just because of the confidence I had.
That's right.
It's amazing.
That's right. Well, it's, a lot of times when you think about an opioid crisis or any drug crisis, you think of the low-income parts of town. You think of the trailer parks, the ghettos, and stuff like that. But, I got to tell you, as a dad of a 15-year-old son, I think the thing that's most mind-blowing for me is how it has penetrated the best neighborhoods, the best parts of town, and how it's such a, I mean, there's no way to know that it's there. It's in more than we think. Right. So as a dad, I'm like, what should I tell my son? How should my wife and I go about, we got a teenager, he's going to be hanging out with friends, less adult supervised. What would be some advice you could give for parents?
Nick, I'm not condoning any of the things that we did growing up, and I'm a little older than you, right? Yeah. But when we were growing up, it's not the world we live in today, right? We drank, we smoked some weed. I grew up in the 80s, so there was cocaine, but heck, we were never rich enough to have that anyway. Right. So it might as well have been, it was on Miami Vice.
That's right.
And so how that's changed today is, first of all, the marijuana and the THC products are so much more pure. They're made in labs, not grown in somebody's basement or in their closet. So the THC content is so much higher. So whenever you're using that, your inhibitions go down and you're liable to try anything, right? I mean, you're much more in risk taking. And here's the problem with that today. The problem with that today is you don't have to be a continuous user. You can use one time and die.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, today if I decide to relapse, my gosh, I'm 21 years old, I've got an ID, I've got money, and there's a liquor store within probably 2 miles of where we're sitting right now. And I can do that. And it'll take 20 years of hard drinking to kill me unless I have a wreck. If I decide to use pills or heroin or fentanyl today, I'll die this afternoon. That's the deal.
Yeah.
And so, I'd encourage you to talk to your kids about this. It's what they don't realize. I mean, you look at these things, and I've been to parties, even in the 80s, I've been to parties where we had pills. People got in their parents', medicine cabinets, right? Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, those type things. It looks like just what comes out of the pharmacy, right? I mean, I can't tell the difference.
That's right.
And instead of being what you think it is, it's fentanyl. And you get a hold of the wrong one and you die right then. And it's not this struggle, right? It's not this, this prodrome of going in and going down to your knees. I mean, you literally take a breath and then you don't take the next one.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that parents have to understand and keep with their kids. I mean, you and I were talking before we got started here about, sharing stuff at the county fair.
Yeah.
And you're spot on. Man, you're spot on about that because you just don't know. And this whole, only touching people on the other side of the tracks, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the one that gets me. I've got this group of moms in Williamson County that I think are absolute warriors. I think they're studs. I don't have better words for them. That lost their kids to drug overdoses.
Wow.
Did CPR in their kids in the beds that they grew up in as children.
Wow.
And Williamson County ain't exactly hurting, okay,
Right.
if we're honest. And so, educated at Harpeth Hall, the finest of schools, yet, here's this thing underlying. And we don't want to talk about it. And the reason I love these moms so much is because a couple of them actually wrote it in their kids' obituaries.
Wow.
And I said, what? And I went and found them, right? And I know them well now. And when we start getting things like that, and we have people that are willing to be that vulnerable, then that's where we start to move the needle. Is things like that, and we do have that in Williamson County with a lot of our parents there.
It's so hard to fear something that you've never seen or touched before.
Right.
That's the hardest thing for me is I can show my son the most horrible car crashes. You know what I mean? I can show my son moms and dads talking about the loss of losing a child, siblings, and you can hear about the loss from fentanyl, but again, I don't know if I've ever seen it or not. I don't know if I've been in the vicinity or not. I don't take things definitely that I don't know especially from people I don't know, but I maybe I've touched it. Maybe I've been around it. I have no idea.
Well, Nick, we're in the fourth opioid crisis in the history of our country. First one, the Civil War. Second one in the 1920s and the early 1970s, and then today. Today's is so much worse because of what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay, because you look at a pill. This came from a doctor.
Yeah.
Well, it's not bad, right? But I wouldn't have it if the doctor didn't think I needed it, and even if I'm buying it for somebody, it came out of the pharmacy, so it's fine, right? And that's it. It looks so innocuous. I still talk about this because I can't believe I got to the point in my life where I woke up in the morning and I couldn't go unless I had this little thing.
Yeah.
How's that possible? I mean, I'm educated. I have money. I have a job. I have cars that I never dreamed I'd have when I was a kid.
Yeah.
How did this happen? And I think that's the point, because it's not, a needle in somebody's arm laying underneath the bridge, although it does turn into that. And the line between that person laying underneath the bridge and the kid who's using in Williamson County going to private schools is a very, very fine line, Nick. You say, well, I'm going to take pills, but I could never stick a needle in my arm. You'd like to think that, right? And then you get desperate enough, and maybe you can't stick a needle in your arm, but the person who's with you can stick you, and then they teach you. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that one.
Wow.
So you're spot on in your analysis of it. It looks innocuous. Can't hurt me. And pretty soon it's dominating you. And then if you get a hold of that pill that's what you think it is, and it's fentanyl, and again, I can't tell the difference, then you die. And that's the part that really is scary. I've got a grandchild. She's 18 months old. She lights up the room for me. And sometimes when I'm watching her play, I wished I could just keep her right there with her toys in my living room. And you and I both know that ain't going to happen, just like your 15-year-old son.
Yep.
So how do we arm them going forward with this? Because we all face this stuff in school, right?
Yeah.
We were out there. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But, guys, it's different today. It is markedly different. I had somebody not long ago tell me, said, Steve, addiction hadn't changed in the last 100 years. Probably the roots of it haven't. But if you think the landscape hadn't changed in the last 100 years, you've got your head in the sand.
That's right. I mean, literally, you were mentioning the 80s earlier. Folks, we're talking about the 1900s.
That's exactly right. No doubt.
Well, it's such a scary thing because, again, I have no idea. So I'm gonna not act like I know things I don't know. How many forms? How do people consume? What are all the ways people consume it? I know, with cocaine, I know most people sniff it, but there's multiple types of uses for it. What are the uses of fentanyl? How do you what does it like? What does it look like even? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, what it looked like, it's powder, basically. And when we talk about fentanyl, when I first started hearing about fentanyl, and keep in mind, I'm a doctor, and I was a doctor for a long time before this came along. I thought about fentanyl that came out of the hospital, right? If you have surgery of any type that they put using general anesthesia, you've had fentanyl.
Okay, so I've had it before. Then
I'm sure.
And what's the good uses for it, by the way?
We don't need to get rid of it by any means. I mean, it's a very useful tool in anesthesia and post-operative care, for sure. And of course, end-of-life care with people with metastatic cancer. And there's no question, we absolutely don't need to get rid of it. But it comes in patches, sustained-release patches that go through your skin. There's sprays, and there's various ways you can give it. Give it IV, which is what they'll do when you have surgery. And so when I first started hearing about fentanyl, that's where my mind went. And I really wasn't that worried about it, Nick, because even if you're able to divert it out of a hospital, to be a big deal, you're going to have to divert it in quantities that I just didn't see possible.
Yeah.
What I didn't know is you can literally go on that computer there in front of you and Google, how do I make fentanyl? And you can figure it out. I mean, there's actually one-step methods to make powder fentanyl, which is what happens in other countries, mainly China, and it's brought into the United States through Canada and Mexico. And this is not a border politics show, but that's how it comes in. And then it's pressed into pills that look just like what comes out of our pharmacy. So when this first started hitting, when I first started hearing about this in, 2013, 2014, I could look at the pills and I could tell the difference, right? I could see little impurities in them, and today I can't tell the difference. And so I always describe it as Breaking Bad. I'm a huge Breaking Bad fan, right?
Heck yeah!
All right. So Walt and Jesse they're making meth in a mobile home out in the desert, right? Mm-hmm. And then they meet Gus Fring, right? And now they got an underground pharmaceutical lab, and the product went through the roof. Same thing's happening here.
Okay.
And so when I look at these pills today, Nick, I mean, used to people would buy stuff at Lowe's, Home Depot to pill press. Now these are industrial strength pharmaceutical grade pill presses. I've seen them. I've seen ones that our colleagues in law enforcement have confiscated. And Nick, I can't tell the difference.
Okay.
And that is the part that if I'm a parent right now of a teenager, and I'll be a grandparent of a teenager in 13 years, That's the part that I would absolutely be terrified about.
So when you talk about the astounding numbers, and again, this isn't a political thing, but I mean, it is. Mm-hmm. When you talk about the astounding numbers and how it's affecting people, why isn't this? Why aren't they covering it? Why won't they give it the attention that it deserves? You know what I mean? Like what is it going to take for them to actually for the big boys, the big network press to cover it like they should? What's it going to take?
The right person's kid dying.
Man, that's what I was. Unfortunately, I wouldn't hope it was going to go there, but that's what I was basically getting at.
When we started cracking down on doctors for misprescribing and particularly running pill mills when we should have, I saw heroin. I knew it, right? We didn't do anything to treat the people who already had the addiction. Heroin's cheap. You had the cartels that were producing black tar heroin, which is dirt cheap. I saw that one. I didn't see fentanyl. And so, the reason you don't hear about it is the stigma associated with it. Oh, it's those people. Yeah. Or if it's happening in my house, I dang sure don't want anybody to know about it. Yeah. And not long ago, I was in D.C., and we were at a big conference up there, and the person who led it off, I was moderating it for the day, worked in the Pentagon. He was one of the people who was on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Okay. Right, just right, and he was in the Navy. He was an admiral. So his boss was the Navy representative to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And he got up, and Nick, I judged him. I was like, oh, man, here we go. We're going to talk about, battleships and drug cartels. And I judged the heck out of him. And he just had one slide, and he put it up there. And it was his son.
Oh, man.
And his son died of a fentanyl overdose. And I'm sitting there watching this guy in this white uniform that works in the Pentagon at the level of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And he said, I had no idea what to do. And I think that spoke to me more than anything. First of all, it convicted me because I judged him like I did. Yeah. And then the second thing is to realize that this guy, does he have resources? And I'll talk about us here in Nashville. I mean, we live in Nashville, and I know she's okay with me talking about this. Our former mayor, Megan Berry. Yeah. Megan, who I love, lost her son Max to a drug overdose.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It is. And Megan said, Steve, I'm the mayor of this city. I have resources. She said, I didn't know. Right? I thought I sent him away, and he comes back and he's better. And I think that Nick, in order to make the ground that we're the right person's kid's got to die. Right. And I don't want that. Right? I'm not sitting here advocating for that. But this should be on the front page of every newspaper. Yeah. We did a thing not long ago in D.C. where we educated the new members of Congress on this, and it was bipartisan. And Jim Carroll, who was the drug czar under President Trump, 45 Trump, and Jim Carroll said in the room, he said, I'm the most conservative person in this room. And Jim was right. He was. And he said, and we don't spend enough money on this. And so that's my concern right now is that we don't give it the attention that it needs because of shame, stigma, and it happens to somebody else until it lands in your own living room. And heck, Nick, you and I and your wife have had this talk, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Are you ready to take your brand digital? At HitLab Creative, we don't just make content. We build your digital foundation from the ground up. So whether you're launching a podcast, creating scroll-stopping social media content, or building a website that actually converts, we connect all the dots. Podcast production, CRM systems, content strategy, data analytics, branding, it's all under one roof. Because in today's world, content without strategy, it's just noise. And you're here to make an impact. So if you're ready to launch smarter, grow faster, and create with a purpose, it's time to team up with the Hit Lab. Visit hitlabstudio.com/studio-time and let's build something that lasts. Because the Hit Lab is where digital strategy meets data-driven content creation. So as parents, again, we can lean on the bureaucrats, we can lean on DC to fix this stuff, and I hope that they do their part, and they can definitely they can make change. They can create change faster than anybody in this country. But at the same time, I'm reminded of the movie A Bug's Life, when those grasshoppers just couldn't let those ants know that they were outnumbered and they could change things on their own. That's right. And how, again, awareness is awareness and information. I still think this country's filled with amazing, great people, and if we all came together and we knew about it, if we all got the right messaging, there's ways that we could help fix it. There's so much we could do, right?
Nick, I love you for a lot of reasons. I have chill bumps right now.
Okay.
You're exactly right. if we watch the news, we look like a country of misfits who hate each other.
Yeah.
I do not find that to be true. I think we have great people in this country, and I think we rise to challenges. And I think this one is a challenge that we will rise to. The problem I see right now is we need a uniting voice. There's too many splinter groups, and there's also too many people out there that have their own agenda.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hit the recovery community here for a second.
Okay.
The recovery community. Too many people in the recovery community think the only way to get into recovery is how I got here. Not true. There are 1,000 different paths to recovery, Nick. And so the long-term answer to this is something I believe in, and I believe it's what makes this country great, and that's community and relationship. If you look at through our history, when we have been challenged, we have risen to that challenge. And you can look back at our history of wars, World War II being the biggest example. We have risen to challenges, and I think we will continue to do so. We need a uniting voice. We need to put aside our own agendas. And we need to get back to where it takes a village, and it needs to be about community and relationship. One of the things that you and I get to do in February, and we've got to do it for the past few years, is we get to go to D.C. and we get to hang out with some folks. And there's some good stuff that we do, but really the fun part is how you and I got to know each other. And you start to learn about other people's hurts, their fears, their challenges, the things they've overcome. And then all of a sudden you've got this group of people that are starting to unite, that really know each other and can start to pull things together, just like you're doing here on the Hitstreak with the people you've had, right? You've met Troy Sandifer and you've met the folks from Smiles from Recovery, and you see how we're starting to pull together. And I think that's the biggest change that I've seen in the last 2 years since I was on the Hitstreak.
You know, again, the skeletons, the crosses that we all bear, man, they're heavy. And like, you know, the reason that like knowing that there's people in my family that, you know, have teeth that are not comfortable, and that they look okay on the surface, but it's ongoing. It's never comfortable. It's never what it was. And you're, so it's a subconscious reminder that's just 24/7 nonstop that like you messed up. And man, that again, it's crippling weight. You know, it's absolutely crippling. So for me, like the big thing that 2 years ago is Narcan good or bad, right? It's like, well, if they're not here, they're not saved, right? So keeping them alive, however it takes, keeping them alive is number one. And it from, you know, I'm still new to this and I'm learning a lot, but like it seems like the teeth makes a big impact.
It's a huge impact. You know, we've hit on it a little bit already, but I want to touch on shame, because we've already talked about it a couple of times.
Shame, that's it.
Shame is a huge deal, but there's actually a spiritual gift of shame, and this is really cool, Nick. I promise you, it's cool. So shame can go one of two ways, right? In the impaired form, shame becomes toxic shame. And shame is not, I've done something wrong. That's guilt. Shame is there's something wrong with me, right? And so if you're living in the impaired state, things are toxic shame. Oh, I see this, and I go back to that place, and now I'm wallowing in it, and it just you can almost wear it. Healthy shame leads to humility, and humility is a good thing. And so I think about this, you know, in my teeth, luckily, you know, I've had some great folks helping me, and I've gotten them in a lot better shape. But what you can't see is my left ankle, and Nick can see it here in the studio because he sees this great big scar on my left ankle. And every morning when I'm putting my socks and shoes on, I see that. And that big scar on my left ankle came from an unnecessary surgery. Completely unnecessary. My ankle wasn't hurting. I'd ruptured my Achilles tendon years before, and so it became an excuse. Oh, this is hurting. You can clearly see I've had problems with this from the previous surgery. And so I actually had a second surgery in order to further justify my need for pain medication.
Wow.
And I am a trained physician. I practice internal medicine. I subjected myself to general anesthesia, an open surgical procedure on my left ankle, and then the recovery period in order to just get pain pills. And every morning when I look down, I see that scar.
Right.
That's my teeth. But for me, it brings me back where I need to be.
Yep.
Right. And my biggest thing, and I did it this morning, and part of it may be because I knew I was going to see you today, but I thought about it this morning. I'm not there today. Man, what a gift, Steve. You're not there today. Today, I get to go talk to Nick Hyder, who I've gotten to love, right? Who I've come to love. And I don't have to go chase pills today.
Yep.
And you know, I'm not going to steal from my parents today.
Yeah.
And so there's, whenever we help people deal with sometimes negative feelings, guilt, shame, another one is fear, right? Impaired fear leads to anxiety, right? Healthy fear leads to wisdom and judgment. So if I'm scared, right, and I don't want to get run over by a car, I learned to look both ways on the street, right?
That's
Fear
right.
can be a good thing, brother.
Yes.
Right. It's only when we get in that impaired state and it becomes a toxic thing, and that fear leads to anxiety. And then if I don't deal with that anxiety, that leads to rage. People think rage is uncontrolled anger. It's not. It's actually impaired fear. And so it's helping people to understand this. And so I guess my teeth are on my ankle.
That's right.
Yet it doesn't lead to that toxic shame.
Wow. Wow. So what are, first of all, what's it going to take? Like, what's it going to take to actually let's just go back to the border for a second. It's got to get in somewhere. And, I've had the American Sheriff, Mark Lamb was on the pod
yes. I'll still love Mark Lamb.
Dude,
yes.
he's the best. And the thing that I loved about him is like he doesn't want a problem. You know what I mean? He does he's not getting anything from the problem. He's saying, guys, we have a major problem. It's crazy that people are saying like, they're villainizing the dude for basically just telling the truth. It blows my mind. Why is there a reason that like we can't control what's coming in? Like why is it still such a why is it coming in droves like it is? Was it you? I may have heard you say a statistic not long ago that like there's enough coming in, or there's enough in here right now to kill 430 million Americans. Everybody here plus some.
Sure. So first of all, I love Mark Lamb, and I know you got into his story, but when his son finally got into recovery, he was tragically killed in an automobile accident. He lost his son, his daughter-in-law, and his grandchild. Yeah. And yet Mark Lamb is still out there. I admire that guy to death, and people on the left will absolutely kill him. Yeah. And guys, this should not be a left-right issue, but it does become one. Yeah. And so we do have to have interventions at our border. We do have to have drug interdictions. I hear people say the war on drugs has been a tremendous failure. We haven't made the progress we wanted to make. However, our friends and colleagues in law enforcement have had people that they care about lose their lives in this fight, and I never dishonor that. Yeah. If you can stop the ability of somebody to bring these drugs into our country, then that's a big thing, because I told you addiction is genetics, trauma, and opportunity. That opportunity, Nick, is what's widely available and socially acceptable, right? So we've got to cut down on that, and the way that you do that is you try to prevent it from getting into our country. Now, can we lean on that 100%? You and I know the answer to that is no. Mark Lamb knows the answer to that is no. All of our colleagues in law enforcement know that the answer to that is no. And so I was the one who told you that. We had one bust in Arizona, which is actually Mark's state, one bust in Arizona that there was enough fentanyl in that one bust to kill every American.
That's crazy.
It's unbelievable. But here's the issue. If you build a wall from the ground to the heavens, and you still have a demand, there'll be people tunnel it in. Sure. There'll be airplanes that fly over that drop it in. And so it takes a combined effort. Yeah. And I think a lot of times we let our politics get in the way, and we forget who we're trying to reach, and that's hurting Americans. And I don't forget that one.
Is there what communities are affected by it the hardest? Is it kids? Is it teens? Is it older adults? Like who is, or who's most and who's most at risk?
I'm afraid the answer is all the above, but I can tell you right now the thing that I'm most dismayed about, because our overdose deaths are headed in the right direction for the first time in 20 years.
Wow, hold on, that gets one for sure.
It is. It's amazing. If you look nationwide right now, we're down about 26% year over year. A state that I love, West Virginia, is down over 40% year over year. So we're making a lot of progress. The issue that bothers me right now is our black and brown communities. Okay. They not only have not plateaued, they're still going up. And so I think that it's got to be a targeted effort. I used to think, Nick, if you build it, they will come, right? So we'll go back to Field of Dreams, right? I'm a baseball guy.
That's right.
All right, if you build it, they will come. That's not true in our black and brown communities. There's a lot of reasons for that. And I don't try to understand those reasons. I try to acknowledge them and then see how I can deal with them going forward. And so that's the part that, if you ask me who's most at risk right now, today, in Nashville, Tennessee, the black and brown community, who's got the most advantages? People with resources, always. Right? I mean, if you have the resources to get quality help, we have quality help, and particularly where you and I live. I mean, we live in really the Mecca. Yep. I think Nashville is the greatest recovery city in the United States, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But we have I'll give a commercial here for OnSite. we have Onsite out there, and Onsite does such a great job of dealing with some of these underlying drivers of addiction, untreated mental health issues, and really chronic trauma. And so if you have resources, then you have access to that. I have access to that. If you don't, Nick, then you get what your insurance company says you get. And that's a big difference.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to take an honest look at that. When I look at opiate abatement money, which is the money that we won to try to make this whole, first of all, we're not going to make people whole. It's not going to happen. We lost too many people. But we can get a good start on that. We need a system of care that allows people to have access to the things that we know make a difference long term, that's not determined by somebody sitting in an office who understands little to nothing about addiction.
Wow. Are you ready to transform your business and unlock new revenue streams? At Processing First, we empower our partners with cutting-edge payment solutions and unparalleled support. We're more than just a one-size-fits-all payment processor. We're relationship-driven. By leveraging our extensive network of banking partners, we match you with the ideal bank to ensure that you receive the most competitive rates and deliver an exceptional experience for both you and your customers. Join a network that values transparency, efficiency, and growth. With our state-of-the-art POS systems and competitive processing rates, you can offer your clients the best in payment technology while boosting your own profitability. Why choose Processing First? Innovative solutions. Stay ahead with our advanced payment processing tools. Dedicated support. Our team is here to assist you every step of the way. Lucrative opportunities. Enhance your income by providing top-tier services to your clients. Don't settle for less. Partner with Processing First and take your business to the next level. Visit processingfirst.com to learn more and join our growing community of successful partners. So, as far as we brought up resources. So again, I'm a dad. We've been extremely blessed in life and business, and we're surrounded by great family, great friends. It feels like we're the most susceptible to it because it's like everything's going so good. My defenses are down. You know what I mean? So what are some? But also, I am aware, and I want to do something about it. So what are some of the resources maybe that folks are literally sitting on? They're sitting on their hands and they don't know. And again, going back to as a parent. What's the right way to educate my kids?
So, Nick, I always heard when I first got into recovery, you can't get in recovery for somebody else. And I don't believe that because at first I got into recovery for my kids. Yeah. I did not want them going down the route that I went down. Now, I learned over time it's about me. And if I'm okay, then I can help them better, right? So I did learn that. But for me, it was about being a dad. And so the thing I tell people all the time, and even in my practice, at Cedar, I love what we do at Cedar. And I tell my patients this all the time. When you get in trouble, run to me, don't run away from me. And the only way that we can do that, Nick, is a non-judgmental approach. I got a million faults in the world. Golly, if you don't believe them, call my wife. She will she'll give you books full of them. I am not judgmental. Okay. And I work on that very hard. I told you I was judgmental of the Admiral, and boy, God just puts it right back in front of me and goes, "Hey, man, right? You see this, right?" And then I've got these friends, Troy Sander for being one of them, and he sends me these texts every now and then, and he says, "You ain't." And I'll leave out the other word, but let's just say it starts with an S and ends with a it. And he reminds me of that, right? Is that I'm nothing special, but I do have lived experience. And I do have a way of connecting with my children in a way that hey, I'm realistic about what's out there. And there are going to be things that you're faced with, and I'm your go-to. Mm-hmm. I don't want anybody else being your go-to. I'm your go-to. And Nick, since the time I got back, because Heath was 6, Heath was 9, and you know Heath. He's 31 now. Yeah. Heath is 9, Haley was 6. I wanted them from the very first minute I got into recovery to know, number one, what I had been through. I never lied to them about it, and I told them the absolute truth, and I told them more details as they got older. And then I wanted them to know that if they ran into this, that I was the person to run to. And I'll tell you a really neat thing, because his first 2 years he was at Tennessee on the baseball team, and it was funny because all of his buddies knew me. And so when even in college, when they ran into issues, their first call wasn't to the coaching staff. Yeah. Right? They came to me, and I loved it. Right. Absolutely loved it. So I would tell the parents out there, work on your relationship with your kids to the point where they run to you, not away from you.
I love that. I love that. There's when I look at you and I hear what you've done, I know Justin and Troy's story and how, like, you know, when you look at those two guys and you see who they are, who they're becoming, but more importantly, like how they're just handling their stuff, how they're running their organizations, it's like, man, those guys are top-notch businessmen. These guys are the real deal. You know what I mean? And they figured out how to take, you know, something that a reputation and a past that cripples so many, and they've been able to turn it into a badge of honor. You know, so like the fact that they did recover it. Now, I think when I look at those guys, and now that I know them, I'm like, if I was, you know, some people are unhireable, let's just say, or they feel that way because of their past. Those two guys are more hireable because of their past, and they're using it in the right way.
No doubt. And you know, and I love both of those guys. I work with Troy closer than I work with Justin. I work with Troy almost on a daily basis. And when I met him, I felt the same way. And I hope he's okay with this. Troy told me, he said, Steve, he said, you know what I learned going through this process was I used the same skills in this as I did, you know, when I was building my dope business. And, and if Troy was on this show, I know he said that, right? And he did. Troy has a way of relating with people, not judging them, meeting them where they are. And if you look at what he's built here in Middle Tennessee, it is the biggest gap that we had in our state. Because right now, Nick, if your son has trouble, first of all, you're probably going to call me and I'm going to help you, right?
That's right.
But you don't know me, right? So you've got to try to find out, how do I get him help? And you call somewhere and they say, well, it can be 2 weeks. You're 2 weeks. I got to deal with this. He'll be dead in 2 weeks, right? That's where Troy Sandiford comes in, because he and all the people he worked with, matter of fact, I was on the phone with him right before I walked in here. They know that. And so one of the things they do, they just come and get you. Okay, we don't have a place for you to go right now. We don't have a treatment facility for you, but we've got a house. And we've got meals, and we got people who are going to love on you and care about you until we figure out where to get you. Man, what a stopgap that is. And so it's something that can be replicated in every state. When I first met him and figure out what Hustle did, the light came on, because I'm not the most innovative guy in the world, but when I see something I know works, I recognize it, and I recognize that right off the bat. And it took somebody like Troy. If you look at Justin, right? We talked about Justin right before we came here. Smiles for Recovery, what they're doing. They saw a need. They knew how big it was, and they had the ability to fix it. And now you start bringing this community of people together. Troy meeting people where they are. And Troy, if you get somebody who's really sick, right, and he needs help for him, and they need to see a doctor, and now they're going to have to wait to see the doctor, except that Troy knows me.
That's right.
And now they don't have to wait to see a doctor. And that's where I talk about community and relationship. And then we get them down the path in the road to recovery. And it's about getting a place to live, a job, an education, right? Getting out from under the legal difficulties. And now you're struggling with a job interview because you're ashamed of your smile.
Yeah.
Well, we know Justin.
That's right.
Right? You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful part about this. And the thing I know about this more than anything, it's scalable. It's not just Steve, Troy, Justin, Nick. There's Steve, Troy, Justins, and Nick all across this country.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, all right, so I want to go backtrack just a hair, because, like, you know, first of all, you know, anything, there's so many, I'm always looking for things that we can do to help, you know, and it's nice that we have a great platform, and, you know, obviously anything that we can do with this, coming out to talk to those folks, letting them know that, like, you know, again, your past can cripple you, but the same past can elevate you. It's all in how you use it, right? And I totally understand, but, like, again, it's, you guys are taking people that are considered unhireable and giving them hope. But at the same time, you mentioned, like, so when you don't have money, time is the guy that's coming to get you, because bills are going to be due and you ain't got it. So, like, time is, the more you have, it feels like the more time becomes your ally. And I guess what I'm hearing you say is that, like, when this happens, it happens so fast that there is no time.
There isn't time.
There is no time. And what's happening is the community is learning to collapse that time, right, to get the people help before it gets out of control or terminal.
It's a message I always start with, Nick, and you and I talked about it the first time we got to do this, is because we were talking about Narcan and overdose reversal drugs. I have not figured out how to work with dead people. And
Wow.
there are a lot of people around me now that see that and understand that, and the community is rallying around it. It is a different place. We got to be a little bit careful here in Tennessee, because Nashville, the greater metro Nashville area, is not the rest of the state. We can just go a few counties up, and I'll give Putnam as an example, or Overton. It's much more difficult there because of the stigma that's still associated with addiction. And so I'm taking the Opioid Abatement Council to Overton County here in a few weeks because I want to shine a light on it. And I love church, and I love the spiritual part of really my life. Nick, I'm not perfect, but it is a big part of my recovery. But it can also be detrimental to people who've been damaged in the church in the past. And I think we have to recognize that. And I'm going to tell you this. If I break my leg, I'm going to pray. And I'm also going to see an orthopedic surgeon, because I believe that God puts people on this earth, and that I see God in other people. And in all honesty, you're one of those people, right? When I get to see you and I get to see Rihanna and we're talking, I get to see God. I see what you do here. You give this a voice on a platform that none of us could. And so one of the things I see in our faith-based community is we get away from that. And we think, well, the only way to do it is this way or that way, and it's not true. And the other thing is I love I love talking about this one. I never one time in the New Testament remember somebody bringing somebody to Jesus. Jesus going, hey, hang on a second, we're in the wrong part of town here. We got to go over here. I'm going to heal the paralytic that they're dropping through the roof, but we're going to need to get him in some kind of buggy and take him over here behind this barn. Never.
That's right.
Not a single time. And that's why I love what Troy Sandifer does. He meets people where they are, no matter what. And I think when we have more people, and the other thing about that, Nick, and this one's selfish, heck, I feel better about myself. You know?
That's right.
I don't mind the guy I see in the mirror anymore.
That's right.
And he ain't perfect, but gosh, he ain't the guy he was, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the benefit that we get out of it when we get outside of ourselves and help others.
Hey, pardon this quick interruption, but it's a good one. You're listening to this ad right now, which means someone else could be listening to your ad in this exact spot. That's right. If you've got a business, a brand, a product, a podcast, or even just a message you want people to hear, you should be advertising right here on the Hitstreak. This is the moment, the placement, the audience, and you're already hearing how powerful it is. So don't just listen to ads, run one. Go to nickhyder.com/contact-me or click the link in the show notes to get started. Let's put your brand in the spotlight right where it belongs. Probably one of the most mind-blowing things, eye-opening things for me and my wife the last few years has been the National Prayer Breakfast. And because what you see on TV and news outlets and stuff, it's honestly, I don't talk bad about a lot of folks, but I think it's just absolutely disgusting what's going on with that, because I saw thousands of people praying to Jesus before, right when they got to work. Just like my son's team prays before they take the field for a ball game. I saw Congress people doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
It
was beautiful. And every year we come back from D.C., the one thing everybody's like, well, why do you do it? Hope, man. I come back filled with hope.
Yeah.
Filled with hope and driven. What's like, we've been talking about the problems that it is, but there is a lot of people that are doing great things. And just like you said, and where we are from 2 years ago, I believe we've traveled a long way in the right direction, right?
We have. I told you about the congressional break, and I'm just like you. Said, Steve, why do you go? Because I come out there with hope. Yeah. And those of you who don't know about it, they have two congressional leaders leading it every year, and one's a Democrat and one's a Republican. Yeah. And I come out of there with hope every year. The president could be, so far it's, I've seen Trump and Biden, but the real message comes from the other interactions. And so there's a lot of good things that happen in D.C., and the guy who leads us, Zach Wamp, talks about it all the time. He goes, there's a lot of really good things happening here. When we did the congressional briefing back a few months ago, I was in the room with Jim Carroll, Trump's drug czar, and Rashida Tlaib, the polar opposite of Jim Carroll. Yeah. Right? I mean, you can't get two more polar ends, right? One member of the squad and the other a MAGA guy, right? And I watched this process in front of me, and I had so much hope leaving there. I took Troy, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
And I watched people from opposite ends of the political spectrum come together and work on an issue that was really important. And I think that, gosh, I really wish that the news and the media covered more of that coming from D.C., because I actually get to see that, and I do leave there with hope. And when the cameras get turned on, I think things change, and that's sad to me.
Well, I want to help with that because I got cameras.
You do.
You know what I mean? And, so if they won't cover it, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And, again, we're kind of fired up about it. And it's like, I just want to make sure that when you have the platform that, it's ready, aim, fire, not ready, fire, aim. I want to make sure that we aim because this is it's a big deal and it's a sensitive subject and it affects more. It's the one thing, it's like automobile accidents that affect no matter the population or community or neighborhood you live in or income or any of that stuff, it affects all of us. And the loss is the same, whether you live in the poor part of town or the nice part of town, Go ahead.
No, it is, and I want to speak up here just a second for our legislature and our governor here in Tennessee, and they've really done things that I think that have moved the ball forward. Our Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti, with the opioid abatement dollars and the things that General Skrmetti and his predecessor, the General Slatery did in setting up the abatement council. It's independent of the political process, and that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. And so I always want to give proper shout outs to our, but you do that, Nick. I mean, what you're doing here is giving a voice to that, and it's not ready, fire, aim. It's actually ready, aim, fire. Here are the issues that we face, and then what you are able to do, and why I got so excited about coming to talk to you, is you start to bring in elements of the community that we can't reach really any other way. Going door to door, it'll take too long.
Mm. So, folks, we're here hanging with Dr. Stephen Loyd. Keep him up. Check up with him online at cedarrecovery.com, on Instagram at Dr. Stephen _Loyd. Stephen is spelled with a PH, and Loyd is spelled with one L. And at Cedar Recovery on socials as well. Doc, as we continue to fight this, I hope that every time you guys come up with an issue that you need awareness, I hope that I'm the first name that you think of. I want to figure out how to become more active in this. I want to give you guys more digital assets to help, because again, people are on their phone every day. That's where I can get to them. I can go where they're at. They're on their phones. They're on their screens, and we can help with that. What are some of the biggest needs that you guys need from everybody, whether it be politicians, like churches and nonprofits? I think I would encourage churches and other nonprofits. There's more nonprofits than ever before. Okay. I remember when Dad and I were taking Sandlot Baseball from an LLC to a 501c, it took a little over a year. And it wasn't like now. It seems like that's the model. If you're in youth sports, you're a 501c3 nonprofit. I know there's a lot of tax breaks, and people are doing it for not all the right reasons. But I would encourage churches and nonprofits to do a better job of vetting who you do shine a light on, because there's only so much attention that can go around. And not to say that everybody isn't worthy, but like maybe they're not there yet. Maybe they're not there yet. I know my church brings in people all the time for the men's monthly breakfast and whatnot. And when you look at, and everybody they brought in is amazing, and it's great what they're doing. However, are we going at the right? Are we giving the right people the right resources? I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's what is it? The devil is always in the details. I think we're getting there, Nick. I think that if you're in Tennessee and you're a church out there and wanting to know what can I do, right? And a reasonable question. Governor Lee has established an Office of Faith-Based Initiatives, and the guy who runs its name is Dr. Monty Burks. And I'd encourage you to reach out to them because it's what they do. They educate congregations across the state of Tennessee to see how that they can pitch in and help with what we're currently facing. And I've got a pastor up in the Cumberland Gap in East Tennessee who runs a syringe service program out of his church. And boy, there'd be people, their throat will swell shut when they hear that. Oh my goodness! And I thought, oh my gosh, what an outreach! He's using that. He's helping people who are putting needles in their arm by providing clean products so that they don't get HIV and Hep C at the same time, ministering to them when they come in,
wow.
And then helping them show that there is a path to recovery here. And so, and I can't remember. I think I was talking to Rihanna about this. If Jesus was walking the face of the earth today, right, physically here with us, tax collectors have gone up in the hierarchy, Nick. I mean, they now work for accounting firms, so they've gone up in stature. These are the people Jesus will be with. These are the hurting people in our communities, and I don't care if you live in Belmead or you live in another part of town, right? These are the hurting people, and so I'd encourage to look at what you're shining a light on, the things that matter, and there's basic things that matter. I talk about medication because medication keeps people alive. How do people get better? Number one, housing. Number two, education, job. right? Number 3, community, right? The community around them. If you're drinking out of a sewer and I give you antibiotics that gets rid of the bacteria that you got from that, and then you go right back to drinking out of the sewer, we didn't do a whole lot of good now, did we?
That's right. That's
right. And so these are the things that I think that we need to focus our efforts on. And there's also people out there that are predators.
Yeah.
And we have to be wary of that. And we talk about that on the Abatement Council all the time. We want to vet folks to the point that we know they're not taking advantage of people who don't have other opportunities.
It's just, I've met in the last 6 months more people that have recovered that are doing great things. Literally at the event I was at yesterday, one of the performers came in and he was like, "Man, I saw you got your teeth. Check mine out." He had got his teeth, and he was like, "Dude, I couldn't. My life, the life as I knew it was over because I stumbled." In a weak moment turned into what could be a lifelong addiction. One moment could be a lifelong penalty.
That's right.
And he was showing me we were literally comparing each other's teeth and congratulating each other. And I didn't have a recovery problem or an addiction problem. I had a teeth problem, and it's great. But even somebody that didn't have those issues, the way that makes me feel when I look in the mirror, like I'm still so proud of them. You know what I mean?
Well, I said something to you when I saw you today.
Yeah.
So yes, yeah. And the big asset that we have here in Middle Tennessee, and I know you know this, and you're a part of it. I mean, country music is so big.
Yeah.
And we've got some of our biggest stars in country music right now that are in recovery. Jelly Roll, for gosh sakes.
Yeah.
I can go to Congress 100 times, right? Jelly Roll can go one time for 20 minutes and change the world.
Right.
And I'm not jealous of that. God, I love that,
Yeah.
right? So how do we get more and more of that? Who are the people here, the movers and shakers that are shaping this industry that can put these folks out there and give it a voice so that we can change the way it's viewed and help more people? And I've got a great one for you, Nick, because I know how you love this stuff. All right. There are more people living in active recovery in the United States today than are living in active addiction. That's true.
Wow.
And so our job is to get to those folks so that we keep adding to that list.
That's incredible, man. That is incredible. So, Doctor, I know Doc Steve, I know we got to get you off to the next thing. And like, honestly, I'm fascinated with this stuff because it's the more you learn is the more you know, and it's timing is everything, and having a kid and knowing that he's going to be out doing stuff, and I don't know who he's with, and is he prepared, and does he know? Everything I know, I learned from experience, and thank God it didn't kill me.
That's right.
Thank God it didn't kill me. So what's any final thoughts, any final advice, biggest needs, biggest actions we can take?
The thing I leave everywhere I go, Nick, is this: when addiction's treatable, treatment works, people recover. That is a fact. And it's up to us as a community to give them the best opportunity to do that. And I believe we will.
And there's really no more. I mean, we got a lot of problems, but like, can you think of? Is there anyone that's bigger than this?
No.
I can't. That's why I'm so passionate about it.
It's the first of all, I'm an internist by training, but it's the number one medical problem in the United States. People say, "No, Steve, cancer, heart disease." I want you to look at how many people each year die secondary to their nicotine addiction. It's the number one preventable cause of death in the world, and so there isn't a bigger cause. And I want somebody to find a more devastating thing to families than this. I'm all ears, and I think you're going to be hard pressed to do it, because whenever you are dealing with somebody with addiction in your own family, it affects every member of that family.
Yeah.
And so it is the thing that tears us apart at our literal fiber state, Nick.
Okay.
And so no, I don't think there's anything bigger.
Finding the right health plan can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Backed by over 12 years of experience and more than 20 national and local awards, Team Hyder is here to help you navigate your options and choose a plan that fits your family's needs and your budget. So whether you're looking for individual coverage, family plans, or even Medicare options, Team Hyder brings expert guidance with heart. Visit teamhyder.com today to schedule your consultation and get the coverage that you deserve. I don't think most folks maybe understand how big of an issue it is because they don't know what's driving the folks behind it. Yeah. So why is this such a problem? What's in it for the folks that are bringing it here?
There's a lot of different thoughts on that. right? There are thoughts that, the Chinese are targeting our protectors, right? Because if you look at the demographic that has been hit the most, it's been that age range, which would normally be our protectors in case of that. And I don't know any of this, Nick. I'm just telling you what's out there. And of course, there's always the profit motive, right? We've seen that really, our entire lives, particularly mine and your entire lives. And so there's always the profit motive. And I think that's the one that, that when you start to look at cartels, I think it's definitely money, but I can't write off these things. I'm not an expert in those things, but I can tell you this. I can tell you that whenever we rally together as a community in this country, we've overcome things that really, were almost, not possible. And I think that we can here too, but I think this one is so much tougher because of how much stigma we have to overcome before we stick our toe in the water. And a lot of times that stigma is overcome when it lands in your own living room. And as I told you before, I'd never pray that it lands in their living room. I don't. But when it does, I'm going to take advantage of it. And so, the motives, those are the two big ones I see. The motive for me is giving my daughter away the day she got married and standing beside my son when he got married as his best man. That's the motive. I want to see more people have those type moments. And to be honest, Nick, it's the most fun I've ever had in my life getting to watch it happen.
Man. Well, I couldn't think of a better way to bring this one to a close, man. Doc. Thank you for everything that you're doing to fight this stuff. Again, watching some amazing business minds come together to fight this stuff. It's just an honor to be in the same room with you guys.
Nick, thank you for the last hour. Didn't feel a thing. It was wonderful. Thank you, brother.
Well, folks, once again, Dr. Stephen Loyd, nationally recognized addiction medicine physician, speaker, public health leader, and the story behind the Hulu series Dope Sick, right? So, Doc, it's always great to see you, baby. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Nick.
CedarRecovery.com. Find him online on Instagram at Dr. Stephen _Loyd and at Cedar Recovery. Folks, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Hit Streak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.